I'd like to call this meeting of the DABS Commission to order. My name is Tara Toohey. I'm taking over as chair of the commission, and this is my first official meeting chairing. So let's get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. We are going to have Sandra Halliday lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Sandra. We'd like to begin today with some commission business. As I mentioned, this is a transitional committee meeting for us. I'd like to go ahead and excuse Commissioner Jacobson, who had a previously scheduled commitment before we changed the committee meeting to be today on a Friday. And also, thank you all for being here outside of our typical meeting schedule. It's nice to see everybody right before a busy Pioneer Day week. I'd like to begin by thanking our former chair, Juliet Tennert, for her service. I wanted to say a few things about Juliet. When I worked for the Governor's Office of Economic Development, running the broadband office, which nobody knew what I did at the time, I remember Juliet coming as a woman, as a leader within the Governor's Office, and making a presentation to our office about the economy of the state and the direction we were going. And, you know, as an economics major myself, I really appreciated her presentation, her ability to make everything understandable to lay people, and really admired her from afar for years and years. And when I was appointed to the commission and learned that I would have the chance to serve with Juliet, I was like fangirling. I was so excited. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know her, to be her backup and her number two over the past year. So I hope you can join me in thanking Chair Tennert with a round of applause, also on her birthday today. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yes. In more commission business news, we'd also like to thank Commissioner Stan Parrish. Commissioner Parrish, we'd like to thank you, and this is Commissioner Parrish's last meeting on the commission. We'd like to thank him, and I'd like to turn it over to Director Clayson to make a few remarks about Stan and his service.
Sure. Look, the DABS in the state of Utah owes you, Commissioner Parrish, such a debt of gratitude for all of your years of service to the state of Utah in your various roles, not only in the private sector, but in the semi-public sector, working with chamber organizations and business. You've been such an advocate and supporter in those sectors, and all of us benefit from those years of service. We certainly have benefited here at the department, and I know the commission feels the same with your expertise, your dedication and your passion in bringing all of those things and your technical knowledge and your financial prowess to this role as commissioner, and really helped us be the best department that we could be, and I'm sure the best commission that the commission could be. So you have been serving, you were first appointed in March 2019. And, you know, it's very sad. I know we have another, we'll have some highlights in the works that we'll be able to announce shortly in terms of who will follow you. So I know that the next commissioner coming will be able to sort of pick up the baton and really help the commission continue to move forward in some of the ways that you've helped establish and lay that groundwork. So in particular, in just thinking about your achievements, Commissioner Parrish, you've helped establish the department's customer service surveys. You've been very hands-on in improving our operations and best practices, strategic planning. And you have, as I mentioned, in terms of financial prowess, you have been a very careful eye to the department finances and supporting fiscally responsible decision-making. And I personally really appreciate that, as I know our other staff do as well. I'd like to give our Deputy Director, Kate Meyer, an opportunity to just say a few things, because I know Kate has had the opportunity to work with you even several years before I have had the opportunity to work with you. And I'd love Kate to be able to say a few words, and then I'll close out.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Parrish, we really have enjoyed having you on our operational subcommittee. It's been a great opportunity. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Director Clayson mentioned, you helping us, it seemed like hours we would pour over the income statement or the balance sheet, that you could see problems right away a lot faster than we could. And so I appreciated your advice and your leadership there. Also, we've had an opportunity as we were working through, if you remember, SB 137 and some of the getting extra pay for our employees. You were a big part of that, and grateful for your leadership there, for your ability to help us navigate some of those waters, and ultimately find some areas where we could improve in customer service, and on our operations as well. So it's been a great, I won't reiterate all the things that Tiffany mentioned, but it's been a great experience, and we were grateful for your leadership and for your kindness. Appreciate all your efforts.
And Commissioner Parrish, we have to recognize your tremendous service here at the ABS Commission, as well as to recognize and celebrate our new chair, and then our prior chair moving into that former chair role, and it is her birthday today. We have some chocolate cake that we can all enjoy after the meeting today while we work on that training. So I guess I would just close and turn it back to the chair. You know, the governor did recommend former State Representative Steve Handy to serve on the commission. We're joined, and so if I could just quickly recognize former Representative Steve Handy this morning. His appointment is pending confirmation of the State Senate Confirmation Committee, and so we look forward to that confirmation hearing, as I'm sure you do, and we're all really excited about your time to come on the ABS Commission. So thanks so much.
Thank you,
Madam
Director.
Chair,
Yes,
may I just speak in my own defense?
you may, Commissioner Parrish.
Thank you. But I just wanted to say it's been an honor and a privilege and a real pleasure to serve with all of you. And the other thing that has been very, very satisfying to me is to find out, or to find and to learn and to work with such a committed, dedicated staff that we have here at DABS. And I salute all of them for the wonderful work that they do. And it's just been a great privilege and honor for me to be able to work and serve. I particularly point out one, and that's Cade, who the state is very fortunate to have Cade, and I've appreciated working with him as well, and the past two directors. So I guess having said that, we could just close the casket.
We will not do that, but we will give you a round of applause and thank you for your service. Thank you, Commissioner Parrish. Our next order of commission business is to elect a new vice chair, and I've asked Erica Evans to go ahead and brief us on the statute for the requirements for the commission's new leadership. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Tui. So section 32B2201 of the Utah Code creates the commission and also describes the process for appointment of commission chair and vice chair. I'll describe what it provides in relevant part. So the governor shall annually appoint the chair of the commission, which has happened with Chair Tui with her first meeting today. And then the statute provides the commission shall elect another commissioner to serve as vice chair. So with that, not very descriptive, but the commission can move forward.
It is broad and direct at the same time. So I would be looking for a motion to nominate a new vice chair.
Chair, I'd like to make that motion.
Yes.
I move that we elect Natalie Randall as vice chair of our commission for the year with great enthusiasm.
Is there a second? All right, moved and seconded that we nominate Commissioner Randall as the vice chair of the commission. Commissioner Randall, would you like to say anything? Would you like to accept the nomination?
I'll accept the nomination and appreciate the challenge. Big shoes to follow, and look forward to working with you, Chair Tui, and the rest of the commission and the staff. So thank you for the nomination.
Same, and let's go ahead and take a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I'd like to also note that Commissioner Orton is joining us online. And so if you would like to speak, Commissioner Orton, you can go ahead and raise your hand at any point during the meeting or send a message to Vicky, and we'll make sure that you're recognized. Moving on to item 4 on our agenda, announcements. We'd like to announce our proposed future meeting schedule for Thursday, August 31st and September 28th. Both of those meetings will be here in this room. If you would like to make a public comment during this meeting, there's a form at the back of the room. And if you're participating virtually, you can send an email to hotline@utah.gov, and comments from the public will be addressed at the end of the meeting. We have a few holiday store closures for DABS stores and the DABS administrative office and warehouse. Monday, July 24th, which is Pioneer Day, those offices and stores will be closed. Moving on to item 5 on our agenda, we have a very special team visiting us today. We have an audit report that will be delivered by State Auditor John Dougal and Bertha Liu. So Auditor Bertha, please, as you're ready, we look forward to your presentation.
Great to be with the Department of Celebratory Cakes. It's great to be with the DABS today to present our audit. As you know, we're here on an annual basis. We appreciate the hard work of your team, the great relationship that we have. Bertha is going to present most of the agreed upon procedure findings and recommendations. I will speak to one of them in particular. I think Bertha wants you to ask her the easy questions and me the hard questions. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Bertha. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, good morning, Chair Tui, Commissioners, and Director Clayton. And thank you again for the opportunity for us to present the results of our audits this year. And I would like to thank all those that provided assistance to our audit this year. We performed our audit in accordance with the Utah Code as shown here. From this year's audit, we issued 10 findings. Finding 1, DABS operations are not accurately recorded in the state's accounting system. Due to the interface problems, DABS financial data has not been recorded in finance since its deployment of a new ERP system in October 2022. Similar problems happened back in 2016 when DABC, former of DABS, implemented previous ERP system. Since DABS is a significant part of the state, missing DABS data could delay the the issuance of the state annual financial report and impact bond covenants. Therefore, we recommend that DABS resolve interface issues and ensure all ERP system data is accurately recorded in finance before state fiscal year end close out. Finding two, challenges in implementation impair DABS's ERP system deployment. Insufficient coordination and communication resulted in timeline that conflict with the finance upgrade. The implementation involves DABS personnel, its embedded IT team from DTS, the vendor support team, finance personnel, and its embedded IT team from DTS. During the process, DABS delayed its deployment from August to October 2022. State finance was also implemented a new version of the finance system at the same time. Overlapped in timeline made it difficult to properly test system interfaces, and DABS's interface testing was not successful. Communication breakdown caused DABS to incorrectly assess the feasibility of resolving issues after deployment. DABS deployed to avoid additional vendor cost, but it lacked the sufficient understanding of the problems and risk. And the interface issues are still not resolved. Therefore, we recommend that DABS ensure systems are successfully tested prior to deployment, ensure sufficient communication and complete understanding of issues to improve decision-making, improve communication among members of development team, and improve cross-agency communication. Finding three, DABS does not collect the entire statutorily required markup from Type 5 package agencies. DABS does not uniformly collect required markup from all package agencies. The statute requires DABS sets mandatory liquor retail prices that include the statutory markup. As a comparison, Type 1 through 4 package agency buys product from DABS, sells product to the public at the mandatory retail price. DABS retains markup from the liquor sales. But Type 5 package agency manufactures its own product, sells product to the public at mandatory retail price, remits some funds to the DABS, retains significant portion of the markup. This picture shows the flow of sales proceeds of an example bottle of wine. As you can see on the left-hand side, Type 1 through 4 package agencies buys the product from DABS, sells the product at the mandatory retail price, and DABS retains the entire markup. While on the right-hand side of the picture, Type 5 package agencies manufactures its own product, sell it at the mandatory retail price. It pays about $5 to DABS and retains over $9 from the markup. There is no indication in the statute that markup should be treated differently for the Type 5 package agencies. For fiscal year 2022, DABS did not collect about 3.95 million in the statutory markup from the Type 5 package agencies. Therefore, we recommend that DABS collect the entire statutory markup from the Type 5 package agencies' liquor sales. Finding 4, DABS charged Type 5 package agencies an administrative fee not established according to statute. DABS charges Type 5 package agency 5% administrative fee. However, the fee was not established in accordance with the statute, as it is not included in the fee schedule approved by the legislature. Current DABS staff do not know how and when the fee was originated, and the amount of the administrative fee charged to the Type 5 package agency was about $829,000 during fiscal year 2022. So we recommend that DABS either eliminate the administrative fee or ensure the fee is properly established according to the statute. And if DABS decided to retain the administrative fee, we recommend that it should consistently apply the treatment of the administrative fee to all the package agencies. Finding 5, DABS does not consistently collect all statutory required earmarks from Type 5 package agencies. The statute requires DABS to set aside some liquor sales proceeds to pay for the school lunch, public safety, underage drinking prevention earmarks. While the school lunch and the public safety earmarks are paid in the current year, the underage drinking prevention earmark is paid 2 years after the liquor sales occur. As a comparison, Type 1 through 4 package agency buys product from DABS. DABS retains the markup and use the markup to pay for the earmarks. While under Type 5 package agencies manufactures its own product, DABS bills the Type 5 package agencies the school lunch and the public safety earmarks, but it does not bill the Type 5 package agency for the underage drinking prevention earmark. Instead, DABS used the administrative fee to pay for this earmark. Again, current DABS staff does not know why it does not handle the underage drinking prevention earmark consistent with the other 2 earmarks. Therefore, we recommended that DABS ensure consistent handling of all the statutory earmarks and consider recommending to the legislature to remove delay between the liquor sales and the payment of the underage drinking prevention earmark to be consistent with the other earmarks. Finding 6, DABS does not issue notices of agency action for violations in a timely manner. Violation reviews take significantly longer this year. DABS took an average of 27 business days to issue a formal notices of agency action letter. Last year average was 11 business days, more than double in time. Issuing a notice of agency action is a key step for the DABS and the AG office to begin working with the violators to take corrective action. Therefore, we recommend that DABS evaluate and improve violation review process to increase efficiency and to decrease time taken to issue the notice of agency action. Finding 7. DABS allows certain package agency contracts to exist in perpetuity. Type 2 and 3 package agency contracts are limited to 3 years. However, type 1, 4, 5 package agency contracts do not have a set timeline. Statute limits the maximum number of package agency contracts. Currently, the maximum has not been reached yet. However, if the limit is reached, qualified potential package agency could be denied contracts. Therefore, we recommend that DABS establish timelines for package agency contracts and establish criteria to select package agencies when the number of applicants exceeds the number of available contracts. And finding 8.
Yeah, and finding 8, the governance structure could be simplified. Currently, there's a potential of some conflict and redundancy in reporting. As you noted, the governor appointed your chair for the commission. Next slide. The governor appoints the commission members and they report to the governor. The commission oversees DABS, its executive director, its operations, and so forth. But the DABS executive director is also appointed by the governor and is a member of the cabinet. Therefore, the executive director reports both to the commission and to the governor. Now, if you look at a little bit of history, this is inconsistent with other agencies. And we're going to highlight the Tax Commission and UDOT, the Utah Department of Transportation. Historically, DABS or DABC at the time, UDOT and the Tax Commission were all similar. You had an executive director that reported to a commission that reported to the governor. Under Mike Levitt, he wanted more authority over UDOT. And so he got the legislature to realign the structure of UDOT to have the commission report to the executive director and the executive director report to the governor. So still an executive director, still a commission, but both of those are structured differently and have a clear reporting chain, if you will. I would describe that DABS is kind of straddling in between those two. It has shifted so the governor has more oversight over the executive director, but now we have that risk of redundancy and possible conflict. So as a result, what we're recommending is that the governor consider, next slide. Okay, right here. That the governor consider working with the legislature to clearly improve that reporting chain of command, having the commission focus on the regulatory and adjudicative matters, which is where you spend most of your time anyway, and to remove the commission's responsibilities for overseeing all the day-to-day operational activities and have that report through the executive director to the governor. So that's our recommendation on finding 8. Any questions there? Okay, I'll turn the time back to Bertha.
So finding number 9, DABS internal inventory analysis do not fully measure the operational efficiency. So we all know that Bellman constitutes approximately significant part of the warehouse inventory, is about 65%. But the Bellman inventory was not included in the analysis. So we recommend that DABS include the Bellman inventory as part of the inventory analysis matrix. Finding number 10, limited aspects of the rare and high demand product distribution process could be susceptible to potential favoritism. In the distribution process, some safety stock set aside to accommodate breakage. However, the staff was allowed to use discretion to distribute the unused safety stock items. And this will result in increased risk of inequitable distribution. So we recommend that DABS continue removing personnel discretion in the rare and high demand product distribution process. And this concludes our report. Thank you.
And one of the things I like to highlight is we've identified various issues, but I want to point out there's many great things that the agency is doing. There's a lot of hard work they're doing. One of the things I appreciate is they're looking at past practices to identify ways to improve. For example, on that last item, we saw we didn't see any actual impairment of that process. We just saw a potential risk in there because the agency had already eliminated the other areas of risk throughout that process. One of the reasons we looked at the rare and high product area was because Oregon State, it was reported on various risks and areas of problems that they had with those kind of products. We did not see that problem here in Utah. So I want to just make sure, despite us reporting on various concerns, there are lots of many great things that the agency is doing, and I appreciate their hard work. So questions from the commission?
Yeah, Auditor, I think we're going to go to Director Clayson first for her response to the audit and then have commission discussion if you'd be available for questions.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Tui. I appreciate Auditor Dougal and his staff led by Bertha Liu, but there's several others that Bertha and both Auditor Dougal lead that given the extensiveness of an audit like this and the complexity of our operations, our staff get to work extensively with the auditor staff. And that has been a very positive experience. They have done a great job looking into our operations, communicating with us. And I think you all deserve to be recognized for that professionalism and just stellar communication. So thank you. As public servants, the DABS believes in the importance of transparency and efficiency while fulfilling our statutory obligation to reasonably satisfy the public demand for alcoholic beverages, both legally and safely. The audit findings are an excellent management tool and provide invaluable insight and opportunities for our improvement, as well as a chance to explain how our complex retail operations function. My team and I are looking forward to incorporating these audit findings and recommendations as we continue to serve Utah. I also quickly, commissioners, just wanted to recognize that we've got some interagency partners that are with us today. Virtually, we've got the new Department of Government Operations Director, Marvin Dodge, who's virtually with us. We're also joined in person by the new State Finance Director, Van Christensen. And we also have a member of State Finance here as well. We have been and will continue. It's very important that you all understand this, as well as the state auditor and the public that we serve. Continue to work expeditiously and collaboratively with our interagency partners at DGO, including Director Alan Fuller of DTS, to ensure that this ERP implementation is complete, leading into finding 1 and 2 from the state auditors agreed upon procedures and reporting. The fiscal health and accuracy of the financial reporting is both our department's duty as a state agency and a major administrative priority, the most important administrative priority as far as I'm concerned. The DABS has accurate financial data and an action plan to ensure that that data is properly recorded with the state. So we have been entering data into FiNet. But there have been, as the audit shows, some significant hurdles to that process. While the new system, or with the new system to manage and report DABS financial information is not yet fully implemented, it is in the process of being tested. And sort of parallel to that track, we are continuing to manually input that financial data. And we are confident that financial data will indeed be accurately reflected into FINET, the state's accounting system, before the deadline. So we do feel that we will absolutely be able to meet our fiduciary and statutory obligations to the state of Utah here at the DABS. Also, the DABS has coordinated, as I mentioned, with DGO, State Finance, and DTS, and identified the steps needed to accurately upload that financial data to FINET. And in the corrective action plan, we do anticipate being able to do that on or before August 30th. I do headed into finding 2, which is related to finding 1, again, the implementation. We are working closely with our partners in the systems implementation, which involves a lot of people. We have the agency, and we obviously have our needs that we identify. We work with DTS. There's sort of a go-between or a conduit, right, in standing those systems up, working with the implementer, in this case, Accenture, on those integrations. And so we are committed to making sure that not only now, but in the future, because we have a lot of projects coming up, right? Tech-related projects, that we're going to make sure that we're communicating much better, we're coordinating better to ensure that our proper systems are being tested, that we're all in complete understanding and alignment with where we are and where we should be heading. I do just want to report that many aspects of the implementation was successful. But obviously, we do accept the recommendation onto the auditor because there are some things that have not been successful. And again, we do feel confident that we will be able and are correcting those issues. And again, I think it's very important. We will be able to meet our statutory obligation related to year-end close.
Director?
Yes.
Do you mind if I interrupt at this point just to sort of, I know that we've had discussions as commissioners about this implementation and trying to do our best to support the department, but I think we might have a few questions on your findings and maybe for the department on the implementation. And yeah, Commissioner Tenner, go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I just, again, want to start out by thanking the auditor's office for this work. It's so important to have this third-party independent look into the operations and the policy of the department. So thank you for that. And thank you, Commissioner or Director Clayson, for working with your team on the responses. And it's so great to see how proactive you are. From where I sit, I guess I have a little bit of knowledge, maybe too little, that I'm dangerous, and not enough that I can be really thoughtful in asking this question. But I do, kind of understand the players here. You had mentioned that we do have some folks here that work over Department of Technology Services, Finance, and I just want to kind of understand what each kind of department's role in this is. And really, I guess maybe my question, I'll ask maybe the auditor, because you've been looking into this closely. In terms of rectifying the situation, what role, what can the department do to rectify the situation? What can technology services do to rectify the situation? What can finance and operations do to rectify the situation? Is it something that, we can just kind of, as a commission, right, we have oversight over the department. And so I kind of want to understand where we can lean on our department and where, other players have to come in and make sure that this gets taken care of.
Could I have the director answer one question first to lead in? So Director, from your team's perspective, when you talk about your agency, DTS and the vendor, just speak to that kind of relationship as it comes to this kind of deployment. And then I'll speak to kind of the broader issue then.
Sure. In general, when you have a project like this, it is the agency's responsibility to understand the agency needs, so therefore the project needs, really to lay the foundation and communicate basically wireframing, things like that. Like here's what the project is, the goals and objectives of the project, what our processes are, right? So that things can be wireframed properly, et cetera. We then build a scope of work, wireframe, and a plan, and then work with DTS to make sure that we've communicated our needs project needs, project goals and objectives, et cetera. And our staff at that same time are lending its technical expertise in those roles, again, related to processes, et cetera, to make sure then that DTS is communicating and working with sometimes DTS is doing the work directly, as I understand it, right? They have programmers and people that can do that. Sometimes they are advising and project managing because an implementer or an integrator is doing that work. So sometimes they are doing the work, DTS, and sometimes they are the conduit or the liaison between the agency and the vendor or the implementer doing that work. And in that case, then, if it is either DTS doing the work or in this case, the implementer, Accenture, doing the work, they're helping to coordinate the work because none of our staff that are here obviously code. We're not, working on binary coding or anything to work these things out, but it is our
Python classes
responsibility.
afterwards you can take. No.
No, it is our responsibility, though, to make sure that our needs, our systems, our processes are clearly understood. And on the back end of that, when it comes to being ready to deploy and to test, making sure that those things have hit the mark and done what they need to do so that when it implements, it can be successful.
Okay, and I think from Mr. Christensen's perspective, it's probably similar for finance. His team are financial experts, and they've got technologists who help them develop and deploy their systems. Is that a fair representation?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so what we saw in this, lots of people, lots of moving parts. Executive Clayson has the big picture, what she's trying to do in this complex system they have to deploy, that they hit an end of life. It wasn't like they could just keep using it. The vendor said end of life for this product, so they were forced to upgrade. And you have a very complex upgrade that takes place with lots of moving parts. And another agency that's also doing a complex upgrade of their system, and you're trying to have those two kind of hit at the same time with their interfaces tested and deployed, balancing the dynamics of every day or every month you slip, the vendor's going to charge you more and more and more. And so from our perspective, I would just say, and I hope this is a fair representation, the executive director didn't fully understand some of the complexities that were there as she's looking and saying, I've got this constraint over here. And then with weaknesses in terms of the communication across the multiple teams is where we saw kind of the biggest issues take place. We didn't see it in the selection process and the development process per se, but it really came down into that communication process of expectations of timelines and what the constraint is for finance versus the needs of DABS and the various support personnel in that process is where we saw the biggest weakness and where there's that need to improve. It's like you need to over communicate, if you will.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Tenner. And I think what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, is there anything that DABS could have done differently to avoid what happened? And I'm trying to understand. So you're saying we had a product that was end of life, the department was forced to change, but the department themselves is not allowed to go out to RFP alone and find their own services. They have to be in coordination through finance, through the finance office, working through DTS, who has the control over their vendors. Is that accurate?
I don't want to speak for DGO. I think DGO would probably best be able to speak to that, Chair Tui. I don't know, I believe Director Dodge, the new director of DGO, was planning to join virtually. I don't know if Director Dodge is on, but Director Dodge, would you like to answer that question?
Hi, Director. Would you please introduce yourself for the record and welcome virtually to our meeting? Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize for not being there. I'm normally in the building every day, but today I'm out on the road. I'm Marvin Dodge, the new executive director for the Department of Government Operations, and the Division of Finance and the Division of Technology Services are among those agencies that are within government operations that I have responsibility for. And the answer to the question is yes. It sounded a little harsher how it was presented, but over the years, many of these functions have been centralized. So the Division of Technology Services has come together under the Chief Information Officer, who would have joined us today, but he has a daughter getting married. So I'm a poor fill-in for him to answer the question. But But those IT services were centralized under the Chief Information Officer to make sure that we're congruent with other systems. There are hundreds and even thousands of software systems that we support, and many of these large ERP systems that are running what would be a major corporation in the private sector that is part of the government operations and the state of Utah government in general, much as DABS is. And these software programs are constantly being upgraded by the engineers who maintain them and the companies that support them. And so we're always in some phase of integrating things. And also, as we all know, as we start reading stories about artificial intelligence and so forth, there's a huge concern about data security and hacking and ransomware and all of the tricks that those less than scrupulous folks are trying to apply. And so having it consolidated into one department helps to make sure that we can manage all of those components together. So yes, DTS is involved in the acquisition of software. They're partners. I wouldn't say, an overlord, but they're certainly partners. And we have a DTS team embedded at DABS who are very familiar with the business operations with the leadership team there at DABS. And so these things are done in conjunction. DTS brings to the table the technical expertise and knowledge about implementation, integration, security, and all of the components that are built into the software because that's the world they live in. But the agencies very much have the ability to determine what kind of software they want, what the application needs to look like, and any customization for that business model. So that's a longer answer than I should have given, but the Division of Finance oversees state finances because that's their responsibility. FINET, as you probably have heard, is the state's ERP system to track every dollar and cent that comes into the state and all those dollars and cents that are spent on behalf of the taxpayers. But again, there's a finance team at DABS that we work in conjunction with to make sure that that we're talking with each other. And this effort, where there have been daily meetings to coordinate this implementation and to work through the rough spots here. And we continue to be on board to help that happen and to continue providing the technical expertise, frankly.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Chair, I think in October, I think there was the belief that some of these issues were easier to fix than they actually were. And that's part of what's impacted as well.
I know that my fellow commissioners have questions, but I did just want to say, based on Director Dodge, on your answer, and thank you for that explanation. It does sound like while this issue is being brought to light in your audit, this is not a unique, this could have been a different agency in the same time with the same thing, maybe with less revenue on the line, right? So I find it a little troubling that this is being pinned on the department essentially through the audit, but it's just being a situation being brought to light essentially that is the state's problem. There are so many different agencies at play here that I'm sure that's not the intent here, but this is being brought to light in a DABS audit. And so in this context, I just wonder if you could comment on that.
Certainly, yeah. The context is this is the ERP system for DABS. And so therefore, first and foremost, it's DABS. But we did try and highlight the cross-agency challenges that existed. I do believe there was, for example, the assumption that interagency DTS personnel in finance and embedded with DABS were talking more than they apparently were and things like that. So yes, this is a state issue. This is a cross-agency issue. The reason it's in this audit is because at the end of the day, the ERP system is the DABS ERP system.
Okay, Commissioner Tenner.
Thank you. And I don't want to take too much time on this, knowing that we have cake at the end of our meeting, although because I have the chance to see Director
Ice
Dodge
cream is
there.
melting.
I know. Thank you. And I just want to say, I worked with Marvin Dodge in many capacities, and the state is very, very lucky to have him in this role. I'm not sure how lucky you are, Director
You're
Dodge, but
kind.
the state's very, very lucky. And so I do want to ask you, because I understand that, it's kind of a critical issue here is that the financial transaction data get into FiNet in a really flawless way, right? And I know that's been part of the holdup and part of the issue and the communication there. Do you feel confident that this, through the additional communication, working with the vendor, working with DTS, working with the department, do you feel confident that we can get there in fiscal year 24 where, the data is just moving into FiNet as it needs to for the accountability and oversight that we need in the state?
Yeah, you're generous in your comments, so I appreciate it. It's good to see you, Juliet. Yes, we do have confidence. In fact, I think much of the integration piece has been prepared by the vendor to make sure that it fits. And we had kind of a perfect storm here when we hit the go live in October for DABS, because we are in the middle of a major FiNet upgrade, which is complex in and of itself. And then we had to look at the integration of every other ERP system in the state. So our accounting team has absolutely been committed. DTS is committed. I think there are solutions out there. We've been ironing out the bugs and reconciliation to make sure that the data being generated in the ERP system for DABS is accurate and reconciled before we put it into FiNet. And we have the ability to do that through journal vouchers, in essence, so that we're pulling data from DABS's current system, and then we're uploading that into the FiNet system, so that we have a reconciliation and an accounting of those dollars and cents in FiNet, which is required by statute. It's the automatic integration piece that we'll continue to work on. But the developer has hesitated pulling the trigger on that prematurely until we know that the DABS system is accurately generating data and that we can get it into FiNet and with a reasonable assurance that that is accurate data as well. So the integration will come and everybody is on board. And I think we're farther down the road than most people would assume from the findings of the audit. But we'll be there. Like I said, DTS is embedded in DABS and their office space and has been working on this on a daily basis, as well as the Division of Finance. So we'll make sure we can close the books this year and that we can get this process automated in the fiscal 24 year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Parrish.
Thank you. If I may make a recommendation based on an observation, I think it's been articulated very well that all the three government agencies were talking to each other. The problem you had is there was no one with responsibility or accountability that was in charge. You had a committee, but it was being run by a committee. And next time you try a consortium like this, you designate one of the departments or somebody internally to be accountable and responsible and to make sure that it's followed through and decisions are made and accountability for the completion of the program.
Yeah, and I, if I could speak to that, Commissioner, I appreciate the sentiments there because I agree somebody has to be in charge. And one of the challenges and part of what made this a perfect storm is that at the time the ERP system was in development and working with DTS to determine what does this new system look like. It was a massive upgrade of what was there before and a significant enhancement to that. So DTS and DABS and finance had been involved in those conversations. And about the time that we pulled the trigger to go live, there were 3 or 4 key finance folks at DABS that retired. And when one of those individuals had been very integral in developing what this new ERP system was going to look like. And we've had some turnover in the Division of Finance. You know, this market has gotten a little bit crazy. And so we lost a tremendous amount of knowledge from key personnel at the time that we went live. And that added a whole layer of complexity that I don't think people anticipated. And it's taken some time for the new folks sitting in those chairs to come up to speed on those things. And I'll tell you, the finance staff at DABS is incredibly thin, just as it is at the Division of Finance. And so one of the things that we offered up and have helped to make arrangements for is to contract with an outside accounting firm to come in and just to apply more manpower to make sure that we're getting things reconciled, that the data coming out of the new DABS system is accurate so that when we put it into FINET, it's accurate. And they are committed to help us out to make sure that we're meeting those deadlines for the end of the year. But that loss of personnel was a huge factor in this, and unfortunate.
Thank you, Director Dodge. Did you want to make a comment as well?
I'll just throw in
Auditor
a couple other quick comments. First of all, you're absolutely right. This is a state agency issue, and I'll draw your attention. I believe it was in 2016, the last time DABC upgraded their ERP system, ran into similar kind of challenges in terms of that deployment. And so for us, it's kind of like, okay, back to back kind of issues, different management, different teams, and yet similar kind of challenges getting complex ERP systems deployed. And they are difficult. The other thing that we were trying to highlight in our finding, which some understand and some don't, DABS is a significant part of the state's financial, and therefore it has impact. It's material, if you will, on the state's annual financial statements, which finance has to prepare, we have to audit. And then this is the part that most people don't understand. And then the treasurer's office has to spend about 3 weeks entering that into their bond covenant reporting system to make sure we're compliant with our bonds. And so part of the reason we're sounding the warning cry, and verbally it was much earlier than right now our presentation, was just to say, guys, this is a major issue for these reasons, and we can't run the risk of placing bond covenants at risk. The other key thing I just want to highlight is sometimes it might be easier to just say, we're going to do our own standalone system. One of the things that has helped Utah over the years, when I talk with my colleagues around the nation, where every agency has their own accounting system and you got to audit and all the complexities of separate systems, with one integrated FINET, it really helps in terms of the reporting and accountability and the audit and so forth. And so I don't want us to lose that as the state of Utah.
Appreciate that. And it really does sound like the state's problem.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
so I just appreciate everybody leaning into this and doing what we can to get this wrapped up. And Director Dodge, again, thank you for joining us virtually and appreciate everything everyone's doing. Director.
I'll note also the health department also has issues with a major deployment they've been working on for many years.
Oh, glad we're not the only ones, I guess. I don't know. Director Clayson, I'll go back to you to see if you had any additional comments or responses to the audit, since we were only addressing findings 1 and 2.
Yes. So we, as you know, because you've seen our full response to the state auditor's full audit, our response to this is much more detailed than some of the things that I've mentioned here in this meeting. And I don't think we need to belabor it, because I think this has been a really healthy, productive, good conversation about the state of the DABS's ERP. I think maybe to just follow up, Chair Tui, on what you said. I mean, it is challenging. The state in general, I know the DABS had a huge tech deficit and has had a huge tech deficit. And so I know that this has been a priority of the Governor Cox administration. I think that the governor had a lot of foresight and consolidation. I think with leaders at the helm like Director Dodge, Director Christensen, we've got Director Fuller. There is a clear and intentional effort to modernize, to improve these practices in terms of trying to have this better communication, better planning processes. When we have turnover, be it at an agency or be it at, a DGO division, how can there be things in place from a process perspective that can help overcome that turnover, that loss of institutional, in fact, this ERP predates me even by 2 years. I mean, this is a 4-year project in the making for all of us. And so, there's a lot of challenges. And so I guess I just, on that note, I really want to make sure that the public, that you all as a commission are very clear to this point, that there is not like missing data or work that has not been done, not captured. This is about integrating the data, the financial data. And as Director Dodge alluded to, manual operations versus automatic integration. And so I don't need to belabor sort of what he mentioned and what's being worked on, but the solution is there. It needs to be tested, retested, right? Before we start moving forward with it. Bottom line is, we, meaning me, our folks and partners at DGO are throwing everything at this to ensure that the DABS meets its statutory obligations with the year-end closeout. Not only meet it, but make sure that that is done accurately and with fidelity, so that then the state of Utah can also meet its statutory fiduciary duties, right, and responsibilities that it has. So I really have to make sure everyone is really clear. It's not just our staff that are working really hard on this. They mentioned daily meetings, sometimes multiple times a day meetings. There are people sitting even here in state finance and at DTS that are working really hard to ensure that the integrator that we're using, implementer, is going to meet us where we need to be to complete this project even after year-end close and get this resolved. So I appreciate that. I think with the other findings, there were several that touched on Type 5 package agencies. And instead of going through each one of those individually, I think what I would say in summary is we appreciate this review of Type 5 package agencies. The department has been working for several years now on all of the package agencies and really working to refine our operations to make sure that we're operating in the way that we need to internally, but also to support these package agencies in the way that they need to. And they're also very different, right? So those needs are very different in terms of operations and how we approach those. Sometimes they can be very different. The interesting thing that I think this highlights is we have in one finding where the agency has been assessing an administrative fee that doesn't seem to be sanctioned at any point, right? And then in the other finding, we're not collecting of, earmarks that statutorily should be collected in order to provide consistency. And so I do want to make sure that the commission is very clear, as well as the public. That is not something that we have done in the last year or two where we said, oh, we're not going to charge. This is something that, to the auditor's point, no one knows. I mean, when we start looking for the origin of when did this fee begin, we're not sure. We know it's been for several decades. And if I were to assume, which I hesitate to do, but when the Type 5 PAs, which are mostly local manufacturers, began, that group was very small. We didn't have a lot of people in the craft brewing or craft distilling space or craft cider and winemaking space. And so it was probably a very small group of people. And I'm assuming that at some point the agency thought that this would be a way to give them some sort of leg up or incentive or to balance the playing field for local manufacturers. I don't know. That's the best that I can speculate as to why that would happen. But in just speaking about the multiple findings related to the Type 5 package agencies, these Type 5 package agencies represent Utah small business and entrepreneurs working in a really difficult space. They're craft, they're artisans, and we're really proud of that. It's going to take, in some cases, statutory adjustment. So we'll require legislative support and approval to move these things forward. And in some places it won't, but because there is a significant budget impact, we have to work collaboratively with everyone, the stakeholders, these small business owners, legislators, the budget offices, not only GOPB, right, but LFA. And so we accept the recommendations and we immediately are moving forward to work in collaboration, as I just mentioned, on a path forward that's going to make sense from a budget perspective that is in adherence and compliance with statute, and everyone can be in agreement with. So thank you for that, because we definitely, as we discover things, we need to address them and fix them. And so I think this audit really goes a long way in making sure that we can collaboratively and in partnership do that. The other thing.
Can I interrupt for one second? This is one of the things I appreciate about Director Clayson is the willingness to look at the past, to ask, why was this done? What do we need to do to improve? And so I appreciate that.
Thank you. And, to the, I think because of time, the last finding with the rare and high demand distribution, I really, really appreciate the independent review here. As you know, there are we're not a unicorn. We're not the only control state. There are others, right? There's 17 of us across the country. And within the last couple of months, as Auditor Dougal mentioned, Oregon had a huge situation with its rare and high demand program, and it resulted in numerous people from the commission and agency having to vacate their positions and new people to come on board. So we obviously want to just make sure our operations are sound, right? Because we want to have sound operations that make sense and that are error-proof, that do not lend themselves to favoritism. But we also want to make sure that the old adage, I guess, you don't know what you don't know. It was important that there wasn't something that we don't know that we need to know. And so I do think your recommendation is going to be very helpful. We do want to continue to eliminate anytime you have that human interaction there where there could be some discretion. It's impossible to eliminate it entirely, but I think our current system does a pretty good job at taking that out. And to the extent that we can continue to do that, it will only help set us up and therefore our customers up for success in how we run this program, which is really great because these are some really rare high demand products that, because of our paradigm here in the state of Utah, when you look at a product like Pappy's, for example, in some states may go for $1,200 a bottle. Because of our markup situation and because we don't add on to the markup, you might be able to get a bottle of Pappy's here if you're a successful participant in the drawing for a couple $100s. And so I know that that's a value add that people appreciate about the system. But again, because they're limited in a finite quantity that we get from these various suppliers on these products, we do need to make sure that people have fair access to them and that other people are not taking advantage of a system, especially if they are public servants themselves. And so out of just looking at the time here, I would just point you to our full response on any of these items and let you know that even though the presentation will conclude today, if you have any questions tomorrow, a month from now, 3 months from now, please don't hesitate to check in with us and let us know how things are going. We will, on finding 1 and 2, be very proactive with communicating to you all. Again, the progress that's being made with the corrective action plan, and make sure that you're aware of all the progress being made there, as we will, Auditor Dougal, make sure that you are fully aware as we continue to make progress there and meet our obligations. Other than that, again, thank you. Thank you to our partners at DGO, and thank you, commissioners, for this discussion and conversation today.
Thank you, Director Clayson. Are there any comments or questions from my fellow commissioners? Okay. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate your time and for the audit and for all the work that went into it.
Take care. Happy birthday. Happy retirement.
Okay, moving on to item 6 on our agenda, we'll be considering advisory board appointments. Erica, I understand, will be presenting to the commission on that.
Thank you, Chair Tui. So 2 members of the Alcoholic Beverage Services Advisory Board recently expired. As a reminder, the advisory board is created for the purpose of advising the commission and the department on administrative rules. The 2 terms that have expired are Rob Sargent, who represents the alcohol manufacturing industry, and Zane Holmquist, who represents the retail alcohol industry. The commission is statutorily tasked with appointing or reappointing a member upon expiration of a member's term. Advisory board members serve a 4-year term beginning July 1st and ending June 30th. So both Mr. Holmquist and Mr. Sargent seek reappointment today. I just want to give a little background on their experience and expertise. So Kentucky Colonel Rob Sargent is served as a member of the advisory board since 2019. He's a master distiller and managing director at Alpine Distilling, and an internationally recognized whiskey distiller. He couples his Kentucky roots and distilling training with a formal business strategy education from Oxford University, and he represents Alpine Distilling and the Utah distilling community worldwide. Zane Holmquist has served as a member of the advisory board since 2015. He has spent over 4 decades in the food and beverage industry and 23 years at Stein Erikson Lodge, and he currently serves as the vice president of food and beverage and corporate chef. He holds an associate in culinary arts from the Culinary Institute of America He's honored to be part of the hospitality industry in Utah and strives to help bring Utah's food and beverage professionals and products the recognition they deserve. So with that background, the commission may move to reappoint if they are ready.
Sure, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Chair Tui, I'd really just like to make a motion on this to keep us moving, and we appreciate the service of these individuals. I would like to move that we approve the appointment of Zane Holmquist representing the retail alcohol industry and Rob Sargent representing the manufacturing industry to the advisory board.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenor. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Randall. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, and congratulations on your appointments. If you'd like to wave so that people can see you, Mr. Sargent, Mr. Holmquist. Okay, well, thank you both for your service. We appreciate it. Okay, Sean, we'd love a financial update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to present the June fiscal year 2023 June's financial report. For fiscal year 23 June, as of the 29th, retail sales were $47.7 million, which was 3.8 million or 9% higher than the same time of June last year. Year-to-date sales for fiscal year 2023 are 57.3 million, which is 24.2 million higher than the same time last year, which is overall a 4% increase year over year. After cost of goods sold expenses of 25 million, operations expenses of 5.2 million, and transfers of 5.6 million, net profit for transfer to the general fund is anticipated to be just for June, $11.2 million. And for year-to-date, year-end transfers, it's expected to be about 137 million to be transferred from liquor profit to the general fund. But that is also awaiting what's termed the liquor profit transfer calculation, which generally increases that just because of timing in things like removing bond principal payments and items like that. It's kind of like a year end, like a business would experience for taxes, but for us, it's instead waiting for those adjustments to be made in the system. Do I have any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Sean. We appreciate the update. Doug Murakami will be presenting our Parents Empowered update. Doug?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Regarding our Parents Empowered Utah underage drinking study that targets parents and caregivers to get their awareness and perceptions on underage drinking. I have to say we've hit a few snags analyzing and reporting to you the results. So I apologize once again for that. We do have some raw data, and just to make a long story short, we lack the analysis and the findings. We ran two surveys, one online and one phone survey, and we purposely ran those parallel just to get an idea of if we want to move to an online service, and we're still waiting on the analysis. R&R partners, our ad agencies, they did some analysis for us. I think it was well intended, but what we want to see is the researchers that fielded this study to report to us and tell us what they feel about the two different surveys as well as the overall findings. So again, I apologize for this delay, but we're hopeful that we'll bring the parties together and get an understanding of where we're headed now in the future. So I do want to report on a couple of other Parents Empowered updates. We approved our fiscal year media plan just the other day at our meeting. We buy media 1 year in advance, and it's a lot of work on the front end, but it makes it helpful for us to get those media buys in place well ahead of time. And it does allow us also to quickly pivot throughout the year if we need to make any adjustments to that. So also along with that media plan, we're pleased to have a new partner in terms of our media package. KSL will be on board with us this year, and we're also continuing our partnership with KSTU 13. So we're very pleased to have those on board. We're also, for the radio side of things, we've got iHeartMedia, and we're excited to move forward with our media plan for the year. One other thing I'd like to say is we're involved with our creative concepting for the new fiscal year campaign. We'll do our TV production and filming come mid-August, and so we'll have some new ads for you to look at come September. So with that, thank you, and again, apologize for the delays, but that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And not to, I am looking forward to the study results, and I was, not to put you on the spot, but I was curious about whether the telephone survey includes text.
To my understanding, it does not. We've gone to, used to be landline in the older days, right? But now it's strictly cell phone usage. And we have been having some problems with that. Just, parents may be handing off their cell phone to their children, and so hard to find those parents. But yeah, to my understanding, no text messaging, and we're strongly looking at this online version. But before we move forward with that, we want to make sure that everything's working as it should.
If I might make a suggestion, and maybe this will show the millennial that I am, I would highly encourage you to seek out a way to do the surveys via text message or incorporate that in some way. I am highly unlikely to pick up my phone if I don't know the number that's calling me. And I feel like I'm not unique in that, that regard for my age group. And so not to belabor the point, but I feel like considering that as you move forward with the survey going forward would make a lot of sense.
Great suggestion. We'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any other questions for Doug? Okay, thank you. Operations update from Director Clayson.
Thank you, Chair Tui. I think rightfully so, there was a lot of time taken with the audit presentation and department response. And so there's a couple of items we were going to update you all on that we'll save for next month. One thing that I would like to mention, though, is the new East Sandy store is scheduled to open on July 31st. We're really excited that we're going to be able to open the doors and that project is going to be complete. Sandy City has been great to work with. The staff that have been involved in this project and our project manager, as you all know, Tom Gibbs on our side of things, who gets really uncomfortable when we compliment him and recognize him in public, but has done just a stellar job. There are going to be some really exciting, neat new things, I guess Easter eggs of sorts that we won't mention here, but some really neat things with that store and store opening. And so we'll have a small event before the store opens at about 10 o'clock that morning where we've invited local manufacturers to come, because that's going to be kind of an Easter egg. A new part of that store is some of the things that we're doing with our Utah Proud, or our locals. And so again, I guess to say we're really excited about that. The store will open July 31st at 11 o'clock to the public. And then Kate has one item as well we'd like to update you on.
Tiffany, it's very exciting. I saw you struggle just a little bit not to mention all the great things, but there really is. It's a great store, and Tom, you should be very excited about it. So we appreciate it. We have just one quick thing, which is an update on a project called the Store Infrastructure Project. And what that is providing an app on scan guns that allow the store staff to be able to replenish and know where the products are inside of our store. This will also, a side benefit is this is, for example, is a QR code that customers can also scan, and they can see where the product is as well. So we're really excited about it. It also helps us be able to find product quicker, be able to put it away faster, and allow for some technology to help us in our day-to-day activities. Currently, the project is starting in Hurricane at a Hurricane store, and we'll have a kickoff for that here in a little bit where they'll be testing and fully testing this. But with our partners at UTU, they have developed this software that allows us to do that. That integrates great with our current solution, and they'll be testing it through the month of August. And then after that is fully tested, we plan to expand this to other stores as well. So this also includes some backroom locations and some front of house locations, which we feel will benefit our store employees and ultimately give us better customer service to all of those who interact with us on a day-to-day basis. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Really exciting stuff. I love to see us modernizing as much as possible. It's really great, Cade. Moving on with our agenda, we're on item 10, which is the violations consent calendar. Sam?
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. We have 29 items on the consent calendar. All are complete. We have settlement agreements in place. The majority of these are first violations with the exception of the last three, and those are second violations, but there was really nothing significant or aggravating to report on. And unless anyone has any questions, all 29 are ready for action.
Thank you, Sam. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the violation settlements on the consent calendar.
Commissioner Tui, I move that we approve all violation settlements on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenner. Do I have a second? Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Terrazon. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to licensee recognitions. These are licensees who have passed covert underage buyer or hub inspections. Director Clayson.
Great. Thank you, Chair Tui. You know, we've been doing this every month, and it's always kind of nice after seeing licensees that have had a violation to see and recognize licensees and operators who are passing inspections. And so, you know, the last couple of months we've had 40 or 70 plus. This month, or for the month of June rather, 121 licensees are listed. We've got them on the slide deck here. Again, you can see it's really a pretty diverse selection across the state of Utah here, where these inspections took place at a variety of different license types. And then you also have this in your packet. So I would encourage you to peruse through this list. If any of these are in, you know, your stomping grounds, where you regularly eat, or maybe near where you work or play, stop in and thank them for being great operators and for passing their most recent inspection.
Thank you, Director Clayson. Moving on to item 12, our consent agenda. We did this, considered a consent agenda to try to increase our meeting efficiency last month and thought it worked pretty well. So I think this will be the commission practice going forward. And so this is new, but I think it's going to help with, again, meeting efficiency, which is something that I'd really like to focus on as chair, as that I also have a day job. So Erica, I will turn to you for any things you'd like to mention from the consent agenda that the commission has already reviewed.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. And I would like to also take the opportunity to just introduce our two new compliance staff members. We have Christy Talon here. She will be working on all of our event permits. She comes to us from the Tax Commission. Yeah, and go ahead and wave. And then Sandra Halliday. So she's a new compliance specialist and she comes to us from North Salt Lake Code Enforcement. So we're excited to have them.
Welcome.
And with that, I'll just summarize the consent agenda. So it includes approval of the prior meeting. Can you guys hear me? Is this going okay? Okay. The prior meetings minutes and some, but not all license applications. It includes It does include off-premise beer retailers, type 1 package agencies, limited service restaurants, and on-premise banquet restaurant venue, which is the first one actually since the change in the law last year. It doesn't include full-service restaurant applicants or bar establishment applicants. Those licenses, as you know, have scarcity and will be addressed separately down the line on the agenda. I'll just reiterate what Chair Tui said, that all the applications have been reviewed by the commission and you've had an opportunity to review any questions or ask that of staff. I can answer any questions, but I don't know that there's much to point out. And with that, I think you're looking for a motion.
Thank you, Erica. I would be looking for a motion to approve the consent
Sure.
agenda.
Chair Dewey, I would love to jump in and make that motion to approve the consent agenda, and just reiterating the fact that I appreciate this efficiency and that the team has done a really great job of briefing us. And so I feel like we have full information, and that's why I'm ready to make that motion so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Randall. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to our license applications. Starting with bar establishments, Rob Hanson.
I will be filling in for Rob.
Thank you.
He's on
Hello,
vacation.
Stephanie.
We have 13 licenses to give this month. If I may start, the first, we have one change of ownership, which is Verse. This is just an entity restructuring. The ready to operate Citizens is good and they are ready to go. Number 36 in Springville, they're ready to go. None of these are conditional. Number 3, Finca is good to go. We now may move Oh Shucks up into the ready to operate. They are no longer conditional. And just a couple clarifications on some dates. Last call in Springville, opening day, August 31st. So we'll see them the next meeting. About time, number 3, their projected opening date is August 27th. And El Moab, hopefully we'll see around August 31st, the next commission meeting. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicants in the ready to operate category? Well, I do have one question for Finca, if they are here.
Yes, Scott.
Would you like to come to the podium, please? And introduce yourself for the record.
Hello, commissioners. So I'm Scott Evans, owner of Pago Restaurant Group that includes the new entity, Finca Pinchos Bar.
Great, thank you for being here. Back when I was chairing the compliance subcommittee, when we were really starting to run into scarcity issues, I think that we had granted a license for the wine bar. Yeah, thank you. And we granted a license and then you ended up not opening for a while.
Correct. I opened within days of getting the license. I opened on the 20-something of December and I got the license like days before that.
Oh,
So that's
maybe
not
we
accurate.
have a misinformation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to ask if we were going to be in a similar situation where you have this opening date. I understand you have a business license, you're ready to open, but with the scarcity that we're experiencing, we just wanted to make sure that this is a solid date based on our past experience, which may not be our actual
I
experience.
got the license in the December meeting and it was right over Christmas, right before Christmas. So I opened for 3 days and we closed for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And then we reopened.
Not an extended closure.
No, it was,
Okay.
that was it though.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
actually got the liquor order the same day. That's why I noticed in my response that it takes a couple days to place an order and get the license and then pick it up. So that's why I mentioned that in this packet I sent to you, the last one, is that I don't know how we could get all the products within a day. So that's why I gave myself 3 days to get the products placed on the
yeah.
over, the closure on Monday.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. I'd be looking for a motion from our compliance subcommittee chair, Commissioner Orton, if you'd like to make the motion based on the meeting.
We decided to go ahead and award licenses to all of the bars are ready to open. And I just to remind everyone, especially the people who are joining first time, that the issue, we have implemented a ready to operate requirement list. And those requirements are that one, the business is in possession of all licenses needed to operate its business unless the municipality requires a swap. In other words, a swap of, our license for their business license. Number two, a sufficient number of staff have been hired and statutory training has been completed. And three, EABS final inspection has been conducted by a compliance specialist. And so we have implemented this for both bars and for our full service restaurants. And I just wanted to remind folks of that. But having said that, we have 4 bars that we would recommend that we award licenses to. Those are Citizens, number 36, Phoenix, and I would make a motion that we give those licenses.
Thank you, Commissioner Orton. You cut out a little bit. You said 4, and there was only 3 listed on the ready to operate?
Oh, shucks, can
And
be
oh,
now
shucks.
moved up.
Oh,
They are-
shucks.
Yes, they are complete.
Thank you. Sorry
Right.
about that. I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't realize I would have that issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a second to the motion? Thank you, Commissioner Terrazon. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then I'd also be looking for a motion on the change of ownership with Verse.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Orton. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Randall. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, thank you. And to the rest of the license applicants for bar licenses, please just keep working with your compliance officers and making sure that they're totally in the loop and updated as to your progress. As of the start of this meeting, we had 13 bar licenses available, so that will take us down to 9, and we will get 1 additional license in August, is my understanding. It's just an update there. Moving on to full service restaurant applicants. Corey.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have 1 change of ownership, Taco Taco in Salt Lake City. It is no longer conditional. That application is complete and meets statutory requirements. We do have 31 full service and 4 summer seasonal licenses available to give this month. Ready to operate, there are 5. La Costa Mexican Restaurant and American Fork, Taqueria Martini in Salt Lake City, Vintage Restaurant Bar and Grill in Heber City. It is conditional for a business license swap. Cafe Sabor in Cedar City is conditional for a business license swap. They do have a violation history. I believe Skylar is here to present before you today. And then in all other applicants, Lulu's Hot Oven, in South Jordan is no longer conditional and is ready to go. So those 5 are ready to operate at this time.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Orton, I'd like to go to you for the recommendation of the compliance subcommittee.
Okay. We again determined that we would like to go ahead and accept or go ahead and award the licenses to all of those who are ready to open by our requirements. And that would be number 1, La Costa, number 2, Taqueria Martini, number 3, Vintage, number 4, oh, but wait, because I think we did want to hear from Cafe Sabor. I go ahead and say that we can go ahead and vote on 1, 2, 3, and then all other applicants add Lulu is ready to operate and recommended for a license? And then can we hear from Cafe Sabor before we make that determination?
Yeah, so just to be clear on your motion, you are recommending La Costa, Taqueria Martini, Vintage Restaurant, and Lulu's Hot Oven to receive a full service restaurant license. Okay, do I have a
Yes.
second? Thank you, Commissioner Terrazon. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And also, can we go back to the license change of ownership for Taco Taco? Do I have a motion to approve the change?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Orton. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Randall. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, as Commissioner Orton stated, we would like to hear from Cafe Sabor. I know we heard from Cafe Sabor at our meeting in Logan as well. But since they are in the ready to operate category this month, we've had some time to be additionally briefed by staff and would like to hear a bit more. So Commissioner Orton, would you like to lead the presentation here?
Sure. We just had concerns because we noted that you have had not just prior violations, but and I understand that those violations occur at separate locations, but some of them were multiple violations in the same location. So we just wanted to find out, we wanted to understand better what changes you have made that'll make us a little more comfortable awarding this license, considering all violations over the last.
Okay, I'm
Would
gonna
you
do my
please
best.
go ahead and introduce yourself for the record? Thank
Yeah,
you.
my name's Skylar Parkhurst. I work for Cafe Sabor in the operations management. I'm gonna do my best to respond to what I think I understood. It just cuts in and out quite a bit.
Well, I can also paraphrase. I think that we're concerned that you had a number of violations and it appears they were all first-time violations in different locations. And so if you could comment on that and then what you've done to mitigate that.
So we actually had 2 violations at our Layton location and a first-time violation at our Logan location. So there have been 3 violations. So one, I spoke to this last time, but one was, I remembered specifically at one of these commission meetings when it said, hey, like, what are you doing to avoid this? And people are like, well, we made a rule that we're gonna fire people. And they're like, well, have you done it? And no. So the person that did fail, like when we changed it, they had been let go from our establishment. Like we definitely don't tolerate it at all anymore. We updated our RAS plan. I've turned that in. On that, we've added a signature place and just a place where they have to sign it just to make sure that that's something that they put their name on. And also we've implemented a reward structure as well. Just if someone does pass, we've implemented that we will give them a $50 bonus. We have done that. Since the last commission meeting as well, we did pass a cub sting at the Layton location where we did have the 2 violations. So since our last violation in February that was adjudicated in February, we have passed 2 cub stings at the Layton location where those did happen. And since our violation in Logan, we also have passed 2 cub stings since that was adjudicated in December. I'm not sure. Do you have any other questions? Did that kind of answer it? I can recap what I said last time as well, but.
I recall your presentation from last time too. It just makes it easier for the commission to consider this all at once when you're actually here in front of us ready to open. So appreciate you repeating some of what you said. Commissioner Orton, did you have additional questions?
Are you able to hear me?
Sort of.
Okay, I apologize. I don't know if I have additional questions. I guess my concern is always just understanding how I think the rapidity.
Commissioner Orton, I want to interrupt
yeah.
you just briefly because I think that if you turn your video off and go to audio only, we might be able to hear you a little clearer. We love to see your face, but I'd rather hear your comments at this point. Do you want to try to talk and talk?
Is it better?
Yes, it's much better. Please go
Great.
ahead.
I was just saying that, you know, we as a commission just want to make sure, because of the rapidity in such a short period of time, we just want to make sure understands the, you know, I guess the importance of getting this right, and that aren't going to over. But I understand it sounds like you've done what staff has suggested that you. So I am willing to go ahead and recommend that we award this license. And with that, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Orton. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Terzon. Any discussion on this item? Go ahead, Commissioner Parrish, and then
Lori, would
Commissioner
you like to
Tenner.
respond to it? The request and the application. Do you make a recommendation, or what is your?
Yes, the application is complete and it meets statutory requirements.
Commissioner Parrish, does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tenner?
Chair Dewey, thank you. I just, as part of discussion, I just need to make sure that the applicant understands that I very much applaud your efforts. I love the idea of using the carrot and the stick, as you mentioned. I think it will be good for us as a commission to kind of track how that's working for you and potentially be something, you know, for other licensees to take a look at. But given that we have seen, as Commissioner Orton pointed out, we've seen the multiple violations we've seen a number of violations at different locations, but we understand, right, that you have kind of a somewhat centralized management structure, I assume, with managers on, and so I just want to make sure that you understand that the first offense for when we're seeing service to underage is a serious offense, and that we as a commission can, and I'm going to look at Erica to make sure that I'm stating this correctly, but we as a commission can impose up to a 30-day suspension of a license in that instance on a first offense is within our right. And then also up to a $3,000 fine. And so I just need you to know that as we're, you know, moving forward and we're seeing if, and I have great confidence in what you're doing, but if we see you here again, I think, I'm going to speak for myself, I would look towards a more severe penalty, just given again that we've seen this happen in multiple places. So just want to make sure that you understand.
Yeah, I support that, right? Like.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, and now we'll take a vote on approving the full service restaurant application for Cafe Sabor in Cedar City. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, thank you. Congratulations. And we look forward to your responsible sale of alcohol. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 14. Do we have any comments from any commission members? Okay, do we have any public comment? Vicky, online? None. Okay, in the room? Yes, please go ahead. come up, introduce yourself for the record, and we will limit comments to 2 minutes per person.
Seconds. Scott Evans, Pago Group. I just wanted to thank the commission for, in my last time, I was waiting for the bar license for 9 months, and every single month the commission talked about the state legislature's need to release more licenses. And I'm just wanted to thank the commission for bringing that up. And I think we're seeing right now how many more businesses are opening right now because of that. So that's the public comment. So thank you for lobbying for us, and we'll keep opening restaurants and bars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that helpful comment. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Okay, we will now be having some training. Those online and in the room are welcome to stay for this training, but they are certainly not required to. We're going to be learning a little bit about IDs for the commission education. So thank you for those who have joined. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone hear me okay? Great. Just a real quick presentation I put together to kind of show a little bit about IDs and some of the challenges that we face, along with some upcoming technology. Let me get this to work real fast.
Speaking of technology. Sorry, Tom.
All jokes are welcome. I am my worst critic.
You do have a fancy wireless mic on though. I love it.
It'll work. Just have to. There we go. All right, I have a small stack of IDs here. These are all fake IDs that were abandoned by people that attempted to use them at our DABS liquor stores across the state. Most of these came from the Foothill liquor store, believe it or not. So weirdly enough, they're right next to a university. So it's strange that things like that happen, but some of these are really good fakes and some of them are not good fakes. But really what it comes down to is that cashier that's processing that transaction only has a few seconds to decide whether or not this is a valid ID, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that decision to sell and that your call in 5 seconds, along with fake and altered IDs, how to identify them. And then we're going to talk a little bit about mobile driver's license. We have over 10 million transactions annually at the DABS locations. And in that amount of time, that cashier, every time they see one of those customers, they have to make a decision on whether they're going to make a sale or not. With that, we're asking the cashiers to use this little acronym that we put together. Sorry, military mindset that I have. I do things in acronyms, but the acronym we use is AID, which is assess the customer in the situation. And during that assessment, we're asking, does the customer have a valid ID? And that's a state or US State Department issued driver's license, a state issued identification card, a military ID card, or a passport. Does the customer appear to be old enough? And that's very subjective. And so we have to, use tools to determine that age, right? And then does the customer appear to be intoxicated? As you know, we're also not allowed to sell to intoxicated patrons. So that's a quick assessment that the cashier has to do. And we want the cashier to interview the customer in this small amount of time, just a casual conversation time, avoiding yes and no questions, right? Maybe asking questions off of the ID if they feel that it might be a fake or altered ID. And then while they're having conversation, listening for slurred speech, things like that, to try to determine intoxication. And in that amount of time, we're also asking them to decide whether they're going to go ahead with the sale. All right. And we want them to acknowledge every customer. We want them to look at things, look at these signs, and be vigilant about their decision making. With that 5-second call, when we talk about trying to identify the age of somebody, again, very difficult to do. If you look at these pictures, just these small examples, you have a 43-year-old mother and a 19-year-old daughter in this picture. Who's the 19-year-old? I don't know, right? Like, that's why we are using tools to help identify these with their IDs, right? The gentleman in the middle is a 19-year-old male. So just showing that it can go the other way too, right? Like, it might be harder. He may appear, if we look at that subjective, someone who appears to be over the age of 35, I probably would put that guy in that category, right? But and then now we've had people get very creative. This hasn't happened in Utah as far as I know, but there was a TikTok trend where youth were dressing up as grandmothers, especially during the COVID era where they can wear face masks, and they were trying to go in and make purchases. So we're having to overcome these type of battles across the nation, right? Along with the other thing that we have out there that we have to try to battle is the fake IDs. At the DABS, we encounter 250 to 300 fake IDs a year. A majority of those fake IDs are near the universities. They're very easy to obtain. The example I have here, and I hate to advertise for a company, but I have an example up on the screen of an internet company not based in the United States that you can go online and order fake IDs. They're relatively inexpensive, and they're very good fakes. So a couple of those in that pile are from this website. And because they're relatively inexpensive and they're scannable, so they get past, like when we scan the ID, it comes across as valid, right? It shows that date, it has the birth date and has the expiration, things like that. And it does scan on that 2D barcode. It makes it really difficult to determine whether one's fake or not. So you have to look for other signs, right? They're really good, but they're not all perfect. But we're asking the cashier to do this in a very short amount of time, right? To my point, we want this transaction to be very rapid. And a lot of times, and the reason we have that whole stack there, a lot of times because they're so inexpensive and readily available that they'll just leave them, right? When they get questioned on them, if you call somebody out on it being possibly a fake ID or you just question it any further, they'll just walk out. So we do incentivize DABS employees for catching fake IDs. We give them a monetary bonus for getting them. So that's a fun thing. Anyway. So just real quick, here's some of the ways you can identify a fake ID. When you're looking at the ID or the driver's license, look at the color to make sure the color is consistent. Notice that one of these IDs is more yellow than the other one. It should be more of the whiter color, less of the yellow tones. Also examine the font. Notice how on one of these IDs, the font is more bold than the other. This bold font is not consistent with the way that Utah produces their driver's license. The font should also be complete. Any cutoff text is an indicator that this may be a fake ID. When handling the card, you're going to make sure that the card is not super thick, like a room key or a credit card. It needs to be somewhat pliable. Perform a bend test. Bend the card about 30 degrees. It should snap back a little bit. You're also bending the card towards the picture. Notice how the lamination on this card bubbles? That is an indicator that it's a fake ID. You can also use the try-test machine to look at the UV functions of the cards. The UV picture on the back of the Utah ID should be crisp and clear. It should also have a greenish yellow tone to it. Many fake IDs will attempt to reproduce this function. However, if it's not clear or if it's of a different color, it is an indicator that it's a fake ID. There's other things you can use besides that try-test machine. The try-test machine is just what we have for identifying counterfeit bills in our stores, and you can use it for those IDs, but any UV light will work to identify those UV features that are built into the driver's license. So those are just some basic things that we're looking at in a real quick glance when we're going through these IDs. And again, these IDs, the fake IDs can be really good, and we don't fault our cashiers for missing them because they can be so good. They're not the ones that are the criminals at this point, right? It's the people that are using the fake IDs that are the problem. So with that, we have emerging technology out there that's going to help us with secure transactions and IDs. And one of these is the mobile driver's license. The mobile driver's license is an initiative that was put together by Driver's License Division, DPS. This is the statute that covers mobile driver's license. And so basically this statute said that we'll create a mobile driver's license, or DLD will create a mobile driver's license and a mobile ID. And it needs to meet certain requirements, right? So they're very secure and they're very checkable. This is an optional program. And it's optional on both ends. It's optional to participate in the program with a mobile ID. It's also optional for a business to accept the mobile ID. It's not mandatory. There is cost if a business decides to participate in this program, and the cost is associated with the equipment that they need to be able to validate that ID. It's not as simple as just showing your driver's license. You have to actually have it scanned, and it will communicate back to the system and basically give a response back or a handshake back that this is a valid ID. What are some reasons that your business might want to use it? One, it isn't solely based off of a visual verification anymore, because we are having that handshake back to the system, where it's talking to the driver's license division through a program, and it's validating that the card is good. It does help save time. If you're using it, you can just do the scan. The latency on the scanner is really quick. Talking back to the system and coming back to the scanner is very fast. And it's a safer transaction. You're no longer handing somebody something. And with COVID era type things, you don't have to touch someone else's personal things, right? So it can be a little safer. It is an official government ID, right? So you can trust MDL. There's a whole lot of requirements to have an MDL. It's not just a picture on your phone, right? It is an application that speaks to a government computer, right? Also, you're using it on devices that you trust. Again, it can be integrated into POS systems. It can be used on handheld scanners. The application that does the verification, is on stuff that you use, right? Or that a business would use. So it is trustable. The TSA is now starting to use it in Salt Lake, from what I understand. So again, it's more and more people are starting to use it. So what do you have to do if you're a user? You download the application, you pay your little fee, and then you'll be able to open it up and share your age with when you're ready to, right? Like when you want to use your mobile ID. When you hit that, a little QR code pops up, and then on the other end, the business will use their scanning device to scan that QR code. So again, you're not showing them your picture, and you're only showing them the information that you want to show them. You can pick what on your side, whether you want to just share your age, whether you want to share all of your information, right? And so that's another thing people are interested in, because they're not sharing a lot of data or unnecessary data. So, okay.
Could you expand on the valid time frame that QR code is? I think that was important.
Yeah.
Feature.
So when you activate the QR code, the QR code is only active for 60 seconds. It expires after that 60 seconds, and you can't reuse that QR code, right? What this will do is we added that added safety in. You can't take a screenshot of it, of your mom's phone or something like that and go into a store and try to use it, right? That QR code is only good for that 60-second period. Also, once that QR code's been scanned, it is invalidated and it can't be scanned again, right? So again, just a photo of it won't work. So thank you, Kay. And then once the businesses scan the ID, you'll see the age verification come across, or they scan the QR code, the age verification comes across on the screen of the scanner, which validates, in this case, the age of over 21 and over 18. So, and with that, you don't see the picture of the person until it comes up on your scanner. So you just look at it and make sure that the person's the same person anyway, right? So that's another crucial point of this age verification process, is getting that reply back from the system that the person's 18, 21, and that it has their picture, so it's the right person. So Where are we at with it in the DABS stores? We have it implemented in some DABS stores. We are using a temporary solution of an iPod that has the GET app on it. GET is the company that developed the mobile ID that the state of Utah is using. The GET app will scan any of the state's mobile IDs as long as they are the ISO compliant IDs. ISO compliance is a international compliance for IDs. With that, because ours are not currently tied into the POS, the solution we have is when it prompts for an ID, if someone uses a mobile ID, they scan it with the iPod, it'll come up with the birth date on the scan or on the iPod. They key in the birth date that they see into the system, and then it'll allow them to move forward. We are working on integration into the POS system. Our scanners that we use in the stores are manufactured by a company called Code. Code is based out of the Salt Lake Valley. They have partnered with GET to develop a solution for the DABS in our scanners. We went and saw a demo of it the other day, and it works. It talks back and forth to their system, to Code system, and GET system, the communication is there. The next step is we have to get with Accenture or Blue Horseshoe, and Code has to get the signal to go from, yes, this is valid from GET, and then it has to tell our POS that it can move forward. And the little picture has to pop up and all that on our little POS system. So that's the next step to get it integrated into our POS. There will be costs associated with that. We do not know what the cost associated is at this time. GET, their side of it originally had a cost, and it was pretty expensive for us to integrate into all of our stores. They have since waived that cost. So at this time, it's just going to be the integration between Accenture and Code is the cost that will incur. Once we get that information back, I'd be happy to share it with you.
Just a couple of things to add on that is that it could be an annual fee that we have to pay. They're developing that. So it could be not necessary. There could be an initial fee, which is the development portion, and that could range anywhere from $0 to a little bit more than we want to spend. But the other part is that there could be an annual fee associated with offering that technology. Just wanted to make sure you guys understood that there's could be a cost involved that we may need to decide on a priority for that.
As far as local businesses go, my recommendation for them, if they choose that they want to participate in the mobile ID program, is to either download the GET app onto one of their scanners if it's compatible, or they get with their scanner company and talk to them about whether or not they have an application that will talk with the mobile ID. When I went to sign up for it, I have a scanner on my government phone, and it's about $15 a month for my device after the free trial period. So I will turn it off as soon as the free trial period is over. But
and I think also too, what we're talking about is integrating this with our POS. So if you want to use it as a standalone, though, whether just to verify that the patron is indeed over the age of 21, it's very simple. No data is collected, which is what we like the most in our solution. We would not be retaining any information. We would either just get a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on whether or not it was a valid ID with a person over the age of 21 legal to make a purchase. So we like this a lot because we're not capturing any other data that might be associated with that driver's license. So that's something that's great. But other businesses out there may just choose to use the system separate from their POS, which I think would help them in identifying and eliminating these false IDs that are out there.
And if they choose to use the GET application, it does meet the Utah statutory requirements for retention. So they have to go in manually and turn it on in the settings. But once they've done that, it'll do their retention.
Is there more
That's all I
here?
have, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Are there any questions from the commissioners here?
I guess my only question is just how are we educating all of the licensees about this feature? Because I know I've heard from some that they've had people come up with the mobile ID and they were like, we didn't know that was an option, or, so just wanting them to know how much it costs and how they can start integrating it.
So what we've done is we've put together a talking paper, compliance put together a talking paper, and they've hung it on the website, right? And so if they want more information about mobile ID, they can look at that talking paper, and it has the QR code to download the application. As far as fees go, we're not in educating them on that. That's something they're gonna have to work with their provider or pay the money for it with the GET app. But if they want to use it, they can use it. They just need to have the tools to validate the ID.
If I could maybe just add to that, and I think we've mentioned this a little bit, we've been waiting. We have done a soft launch of our online compliance system, OpenGov. It's going really well. We'll do a big external launch here in about 4 or 6 weeks. But in addition to all of the other efficiencies and digital capabilities it gives us and our customers, it's also going to really provide a much more reliable, consistent way to digitally communicate with our licensee customers. And that is going to help us better leverage sending newsletters and communicating with them like this. So Michelle has a plan too, to make sure that we better educate restaurant associations, and then directly through emails, et cetera, on this topic as well.
Great, thank you. I certainly know that we're ahead of the curve compared to other states in eGov, as we've mentioned earlier here. And since I've already disclosed that I'm a millennial, the idea of not having to take a wallet with me to have my ID, my credit card, my keys, everything on one device is very attractive to me. So I really appreciate all the work that's going into this, and look forward to further developments, as I think we are sort of ahead of the curve with this. So if there are no other comments, I will be looking for a motion to adjourn. Wow, thank you. And I'll second. Do we need a second? Okay, thanks. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.